Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's all about racing. I thought I was going to start a new series talking about brands that I have purchased and my recommendations based on the cars that I have bought from those specific manufacturers. Some great, some not so good, and a lot of those that are in between. There are a number of brands, in fact about a dozen I've written down here that I haven't purchased from because I just haven't seen anything I like. Now bear in mind, I do all my purchasing through eBay or through other web retailers. I do not have any sort of store in my area that carries, good quality die-cast models. And part of the purpose of my channel was to expose you to cars that I've bought. You can get a good close look at them. And if you think you want to buy one of them, go ahead and buy it. If based on my review you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. But anyhow, that being said, I would start off with MAISTO. Now, MAISTO is a brand I held off for quite some time because, quite frankly, when I saw online, I just was not impressed with. And I kind of consider MAISTO a much like Bburago, which is probably two of the less desirable brands that you can purchase, simply because of the fact that their model cars generally are cheap. They lack detail. And they're just not that good. Now, these two cars were not inexpensive, which makes buying them almost a travesty. And the only reason I bought them is because they were the only brand I could literally find that had Mercedes CLK GTRs. And I really wanted these cars because they are very, very cool. In fact, one of these, the one on the right here, this one was a Mercedes Edition Motorsport. Much like Spark does for Porsche, Mercedes, I guess, contracted out MAISTO to do theirs, and the end result was really, quite frankly, a pretty shitty car. So I'm very much disappointed with Mercedes. I think they made a very, very poor choice at choosing MAISTO as their brand. Now, of these two cars, both are the same, just with different paint jobs. This one is the much more tolerable of the two. Granted, I absolutely hate the base with that black and that wood finish on it that makes it look like it came from my grandfather's station wagon. But anyhow, MAISTO, they're not really highly detailed cars. This is why I kind of call them the expensive Bburagos, so to speak. Because quite frankly, I think Bburago almost does a better job without costing as much. However, there was one thing I did like about this car that I give it a lot of credit for, and the fact that it does have this little tiny Mercedes logo right there on the hood, which is not easy to see, and it does have, grills that are inlaid, they're not painted, and they've got plastic lights and things like that, and interior detail is not bad, even though it just looks plasticky and cheap, and it is plasticky and cheap. Hence my biggest complaint with this. This, however, was a really cool looking model, particularly with the engine wrapped on where the engine would be, which quite frankly makes this model better looking than the second one. The other thing I do not like about these is I just hate the gloss black everywhere. It just looks cheesy and cheap, and it is. Wheel detail is poor, just not exceptional. I mean, it's okay, but it's just not great. And I absolutely hate models that don't have aerials, particularly modern-day models, particularly those that competed in long-distance events where they have aerials on the car, because every one of them does. You got to communicate with your crew at some point over 12, 24 hours, however long you're racing. However, this one had a really cool livery, so I got it. I don't particularly regret buying it, but I did regret buying the second one. Now, this one is the exact same model, the exact same casting, just a different livery on it. And as I said, it was one of the Porsche Motorsports, limited editions, and it is just as cheesy and cheap in every way as the other one. It has all of the nice things, like it does have that little tiny Mercedes logo on there, and you've got the grille, which is very nicely done. But as for the rest of it, the cheap wheels, the gloss black finish, I particularly despise these yellow rubber mirrors. I mean, it almost looks like a mini GT car in 1/43 scale, and mini GT is not one of my favorite brands in 1/64 either, and we will talk about that in another video. What I really despise about this one is the engine is exposed to you, and it has this god-awful orange, rubbery hose line, whatever. It just looks frickin' terrible. It just, I just really regret buying this car. It is just cheesy, it's cheap. Thank God it doesn't have the crappy wooden base on there, but nevertheless, it's just not that attractive. So, my recommendation for MAISTO is don't buy it. If these cars cost $25, I'd say, okay, I really don't want a $25, 143 scale car, unless it's a hatchette. And those are pretty good cars for $25. But these were not $25. They were more along the lines of 40 and 50. And I just think that they are absolutely cheesy, cheap cars. They do come on plastic bases. They do have acrylic jewel boxes. And quite frankly, guys, any car that you buy in 143 scale, regardless of who makes it, comes with a base, comes with a plastic jewel cover, as it should. But that doesn't make them particularly good cars. And these two are not two of the best. So anyhow, that's it for MAISTO, and we'll see you in the next episode.